Hey guys, welcome back again to my garden. As you can see behind me, it's winding down for the season. I've been kind of absent on social media in general. I just feel like I don't really have a lot to share lately. Like, life is just the same old, same old. Summer was really busy. Fall is shaping up to be busy as well, but not quite like summer was. Trying to think, my son's working a full-time job now, so he's not home as much, and Dan's still really busy at work this time of year. But as it starts to get colder, we are looking towards the period of time when Dan is unemployed. He will be laid off. It's usually sometime around Christmas. It's been as early as Thanksgiving, but that means that in 2 months-ish we will be living on unemployment, as well as our savings and the things that we've stockpiled. And so, of course, all year round I'm adding things to our stockpile, and of course with 10 people here, we are using our stockpile just as quickly as I'm adding to it usually. But we're making a concentrated effort this time of year to be adding things that are harder to purchase in the winter time whenever he's laid off. So we've been buying, well, first of all, we've been working on finishing our Christmas shopping. I have some things to buy for extended family, for adults, and then I have 3 gifts left to purchase for my kids. And we've been thinking about going on a trip around Christmas. We did that 2 years ago. We went to Lancaster for a few days after Christmas. Last year we weren't able to go right after Christmas, but we kind of kept saving money back, and we ended up going in January just for a night away. But we're really cutting what we're spending on gifts down to try to accommodate that. But a lot of it will just depend, it'll depend on what's going on. And so we've been doing those things because we don't want to be buying Christmas gifts, trying to save for Christmas gifts when there's not really an income. When he's laid off, we are getting $430 a week in unemployment, which basically means that each member of our family is living on $43 a week, except that, of course, now Alex is working and he's paying part of his own expenses, so it's a little bit more than that. But it still is a stretch, and I know there are people who do that all the time, and we just don't. So we're buying things like toilet paper, because toilet paper is expensive, and that's not something that I want to have to buy a lot of. Animal feed, we're going to stock up on chicken feed. We just got a really good deal on cat food off of the clearance rack at the grocery store, and then dog food for our dog. And I'm trying to think what else is. We've been buying things like, I think I have enough laundry detergent for the winter now. And then, of course, food. We've been stocking up on not only on purchasing things, but on canning them, freezing them, all that. We have 2 hogs coming from the butcher, and that'll be in like 2 weeks and a couple days, or right about 2 weeks. We'll be picking that up. So we've been paying that off diligently to my parents who are raising them, and then we will be picking that meat up, and that'll stock the freezer. And we eat a lot of pork. I mean, that's what's cheap for us, and that's what makes sense for us. So, and then of course we're just watching sales and buying things as they're available. But I thought I'd show you real quick what is in the garden still. Right now it is 66 degrees. It's September 27th, I think, and it's been cool, I guess, this entire week. It has been in the 40s at night. My mom said, well, she's about 70 miles north of here, and it's always about 10 degrees colder there. She said it was right around 40 this morning, so I think it was in the 40s here this morning whenever we got up. And so everything's just kind of stagnant. We haven't had a frost. It hasn't killed things, but nothing's really ripening or growing. But so today's Thursday. On Saturday it's supposed to be back up to 80 or so, and I think it's supposed to stay that way for a few days. So I'm hoping some of the things that are in here that are just kind of hanging out are going to ripen in that period of time. So I'll show you what's in here, and then maybe we'll also take a trip into the root cellar, and I'll just show you what that's looking like right now. We do still have a few things that are going to go in there before we say we're done for the fall, but yeah, I'll show you what we've accomplished in there. You can go back and watch the other video that I had done at the beginning of the season when I was cleaning up and getting ready to start canning, to see how much we've really put in there this winter, or I'm sorry, this summer. I know this is looking a little bit sad in comparison to how it looked in the middle of summer, but it is what it is. So when you walk in the gate, we have our tomatoes here, and this was our brassicas, and after they did so great this spring, they just really didn't do well. This summer, we got a lot of the cabbage moths in there. You can see a lot of damage from them. This is Brussels sprouts, and it seems like they're doing okay actually setting the fruit. It's just those leaves. These were all cauliflower that didn't do anything. That one does have a little bit of cauliflower in it. We had our broccoli and stuff up there, and I replanted it, but nothing ever came up. And then the cabbages, and we've harvested most of them. These are just some of the little, I think they're called like Tom Thumb cabbages. They're pretty small. But we have a batch of sauerkraut going in the house with the cabbages that we picked. And we do still have quite a few tomatoes. Oh, that one's got a bite out of it. Some of them are sort of starting to ripen, but I'm hoping a day or two in the 80s is really going to make the difference for the tomatoes, that they will start ripening better. I don't want to lose any of them, even though we didn't really have a great year for tomatoes. We still have some hanging on here. There's a couple of nice ones there. So this had been some beans. They are torn out. And then we had a couple squash plants here that actually got diseased, and we had to tear them out. But we planted, on the way at the end, we had planted some acorn squash, and they and the pumpkins have taken over. We planted them in like July, and they're everywhere. So there's a baby, or two babies, actually I think that one's dead. A baby acorn squash there. We've had some peppers, and they're one of those things, they're just hanging out, not really doing a lot of anything. Some kale in there that got really leggy, and some basil. There's some parsley down there, and there's more basil further down. This is, like I said, all peppers, and there's some on there. There's banana peppers and jalapenos, and these are actually still blooming, so maybe we'll even see some more jalapenos. Jalapenos, if you're fancier than I am, before the end of the season. There's some green peppers up here, but they were doing really well until the pumpkins came and invaded, and apparently they do not like the pumpkins taking over their space. We had pumpkins, and then there's some green peppers under there. My nasturtiums are completely buried under here. You can kind of see the leaves of them. But we had a bunch of those. There's so many weeds. Oh well, this is life. We have a few pumpkins ripened. I think this one and one other one. This one and then the one that's hanging off the fence down there. The only two that are completely ripe. But we're just kind of letting them hang out there till everything dies back. There's several. I don't know if I can see any of them from here. Oh, there's one right there. Several green ones. A few that are getting kind of stripy. We also have a turtle somewhere that has been living in the garden. I don't know if it has laid eggs or if it's the daddy of one that's laid eggs. I'm not sure. The marigolds did really nicely this year. They were huge. They were almost as tall as me, and now they're laid over. They're about done. And of course there's more pumpkin vines through there. This is carrots, and I'm just letting them as long as possible. There's no reason I need to pull them yet. We do have, there's carrots in there, but they're safe in the ground. We'll just leave them there. And the same thing with these beets. These are albino beets. There's a lot of them down there, and they're just waiting. We'll get them eventually. It was funny that the rabbits didn't mess with the albino beets, but we had regular red beets over here, and they kept eating them off. But then once the squash plants and the pumpkin vines and stuff came up through, it kind of sheltered those beets, and I think there's a couple good-sized ones up there. The okra it didn't do well this year. I don't know what made the difference, but it didn't do amazing. We've gotten some. I've put some in the freezer already breaded, and of course it's going to continue to bloom and to produce until we get a frost, and I think next week it'll be very happy as well. This had all been green beans and things, and they're pulled out. They were done producing. There's still, this is that lemon squash, and it kind of went everywhere. There's a few decent sized ones on here. The problem was, for a little while, the pumpkin vines had come up and they had cross-pollinated, and it made the lemon squash skin too hard to cut, even with a chef's knife. It's like they thought they were pumpkins. I don't know, but they were basically inedible. We gave those to the chickens, but there's still a few on there that we've been enjoying. There's some more acorn squash. There's one down in here that's about ready. There's one there that's kind of halfway there. There's another one I think that actually is ripe further down. And then this is the other okra that we had planted. I picked a couple. There's another one. There's a spider web going across to my clothesline. So this whole section, all the way down, was the potatoes in the beginning of the year, and we replanted it with green beans, and then 2 rows of the cranberry beans are over there. And the green beans are finally producing. I've gotten one picking off of them, and especially if it warms up, I think we're going to have more. They're looking good. Those first pickings are always tender and beautiful, and I'm excited about them. I think this was a different kind of squash. Maybe a buttercup squash. I haven't really looked. It's definitely newer. I think we planted this at the same time that we did the beans. There's another pumpkin. You can't really see. There's orange peeking out down here. But this has been like taken over, especially this lower part, by the pumpkins, but then also by this spiny pigweed. And it is so sharp and so hard to pull out. I finally did pull some out of here, but that's over with the cranberry beans. And the cranberry beans, since they're a dried bean, we're just leaving on the plant, and I'm letting the weeds grow with them because I don't want to get hurt. And also on the other side of there, like between the tire and the weeds, there is a yellow jacket nest in the ground, and we've sprayed them a couple times and they're still coming back. I don't know what to do about them except to wait for it to be winter, and they're not going to bother me. So these ones have set quite a few beans, not really as many as I had hoped. They're so pretty, but we'll just let them to dry and then shell them. The barrels that we'd had things planted in, the peas and things this spring, don't have anything in them anymore. They're just, the deer got hungry and took over those, and we just let them go. And the same thing with the raised beds in the front yard. But we've got these things, and we've been so busy that this is really about all I have time for anyway right now. Aren't they so pretty? Look how bright that is. So that's about all that's going on in the garden right now. It doesn't seem like much, but we are thankful for everything we're able to harvest. And there's another little pumpkin that's growing on top of that tire. There's a decent sized one in there. None of them are huge. They're pie pumpkins. And some lemon balm, which smells so good. But yeah, This was kale, and when we cut it the last time, it just didn't really come back. And I did plant, like, initially whenever I planted the beans and stuff here, it came all the way down here, and I planted kohlrabi and beets and maybe some greens, but they have been completely taken over by the pumpkins. There is, like, that's kohlrabi leaves, but I don't think it actually ever formed a bulb or anything. So, and there's still beans all the way down here, but I can't get to them very well. So that's what it is looking like. Still a lot of green, but not really a lot of food. This is what the root cellar is looking like here at the end of September. I moved my chocolate down here when the freezer died just because it needed to not be in the freezer anymore. And water and some meat and some beans. And I have beans to restock this too. There's some pickled things. Potatoes. I still have more potatoes. If they start to go bad, then we'll be canning those. There's corn and mixed vegetables and lima beans and some tomato stuff, but like I said, we didn't get a lot of tomatoes this year. So we didn't get a lot of tomatoes this year, and also tomato products are so cheap to just buy. I know some people say, like, oh, homegrown tomato sauce and salsa is so much different, it tastes so much better. I don't really feel like that's the case. I mean, I like it. It's not that I don't. And if I had the tomatoes, I would put forth the effort. But for me to, like, go buy tomatoes, it doesn't make any sense. Especially, like, on pizza and stuff. You can't really tell once you put the toppings on what kind of sauce you've used. So I didn't put a lot of effort into finding tomatoes. We also usually go to a farmer's market multiple times through the summer and buy bulk produce there, and we were so busy that that hasn't happened. I think this weekend's the last weekend for it, and we're not going to this not going to go this weekend either, so we won't be buying tomatoes. But it's okay. It's okay to not grow everything or can everything, and it's okay to buy it, especially something where, you know, you can get at the discount stores, you can get tomatoes, canned tomatoes, for like 79 cents a can for a big can, like the 28-ounce cans. It doesn't make sense for me to spend a lot of money and time procuring canned tomatoes when they're that cheap. On the other hand, there are things that either I cannot get at a grocery store or are very expensive. And so we do can what we can, what we have available to us in our garden or locally, and we go from there. So I'll show you the rest of this then. We ended up with a lot of meat on the shelves, and that is because of the freezers dying. That's the only reason that we have all this meat. I know actually this meat over here is gristle and fat, and I canned it to add to our animals' food when it gets really cold this winter. There's just a few jars there, you know, on the coldest days when they need something extra, so that's for that. But we have roast beef and chicken, lots of chicken. This is pork. There's more chicken and beef and stuff down there. And then there's, oh, I don't know how to make that less glaring. Anyway, this top shelf there is meat as well. We have some pineapple and some butternut squash and a little bit of applesauce here, and that's something that is definitely going to get filled back up. This fall we're able to get cider apples from someone my parents know for $3 a bushel, so we're going to do that. I think from a bushel you end up getting about 20 quarts, if I'm thinking correctly. So 20 quarts of applesauce for $3 and a little bit of thyme. I don't sweeten it. The best thing about applesauce is, like, in quick breads, muffins, things like that, a lot of times I will replace butter or oil with just applesauce, and that's so much cheaper. So I'll probably do at least another 100 jars of the applesauce. And there's some pear sauce and things over there too. some canned apples. I won't do that unless we end up with extra apples that just need processed. These are cinnamon apples. I may do some of those yet this year. These are pie fillings and syrups across the top. Peaches, we've also put a bunch in the freezer, but this is all the pears we have. I got so sick right about the time that pears were ready, and so next year we'll do pears, but this year it didn't happen. So there's potatoes and green beans. I wish I'd had more green beans, but we have what we have. We were given 3 flats, no, it's like 5 flats of peas, so we'll be eating those this winter. There's still some beets, and these are all jams and jellies. I didn't do any jams and jellies this year, and I don't need to. I would still like to do more beets, but we'll do the few that are in the garden, and that's what we're going to have. So like I've said, it's very important to us to have these things stocked up before winter, and we really do live seasonally. You know, we live differently in the summer than we do in the winter. It would be ideal if we could just live off of an unemployment wage all year long, and then it would just be putting things in savings during the summer. But we are not to that point yet. I don't know if we ever will be, apart from maybe whenever our kids are grown. But in the meantime, we've learned really what works well for us to prepare for the time whenever he's not working. It actually ends up being kind of an expensive time of year for us because there are projects that need done around the house that he can't do whenever he's working 60 hours a week. And so we have to have money in savings for those projects whenever he is able to do them. And also, he's here eating, and he is more particular than the kids are. As far as lunches and stuff, usually we just have either leftovers or something really simple. Today we had beans and rice on homemade tortillas. That's not going to fly when he's home. Of course, if we could not afford anything else, then he would either not eat or he would figure out how to like it. But since he works hard for the rest of the year to make sure that we're okay during the winter, we're going to feed him some meat, and things are more expensive in the grocery department in that way, but then we're not buying other things. So we are just preparing. We're in a season of preparing for winter. I think most of you guys are in the same boat. You might not be facing unemployment, but there's always something that you're preparing for. So there's bad weather, and everybody has higher heating bills and electric bills, or however you heat your home. We heat with wood, and so we get like a big truck. I don't even know what it is. It's a big truckload of firewood. We pay $250 for that, and then of course chainsaw gas and splitter gas so that we can split the firewood. And so we've been working on that, spending money on that in preparation for winter whenever we're all hunkered down and cozy. And so let me know, guys, what are you doing to prepare right now for the winter? How are you wrapping up your garden? What have you gotten canned? All those things. I'm curious, how are you guys feeling right now about the way things are going and how prepared you are for what's coming? If you're interested in seeing like some of my budgeting tips kind of stuff, how we actually are able to make it on like basically $1,700 a month as a family of 10 for those few months of the year. I mean, it's usually like 5 months, 4 or 5 months. Let me know that too. Let me know what you're interested in, if there's anything else you'd like to see on this channel, and I would be happy to make videos if I feel like there's something that I can offer you guys. I don't want to just be noise in your life, so let me know down below. So this is the process of our firewood. It gets delivered in these big long logs. I think some of them are like 12, 15 feet long. Comes like this. This was, let's see this stone back there. It was about even with that whenever we first got it. And then my husband comes in with his chainsaw and cuts it to 20-inch lengths. And then it gets split. and then the kids run the wheelbarrow and it gets put away. We have this carport, and our woodshed is in the back of the carport, which is nice because when you're filling wheelbarrows, it's not too far out of the way. We are running behind this year. We should have had this full already. So basically in a winter, we will use this whole thing. So we have to finish filling this whole row, and then usually another part of a row, and then we'll move over to here and fill this in. We're kind of doing some work over here because it was kind of infested with unwelcome guests, not people, just so we're clear. So we're gonna get this leveled up and stuff, and then overflow will go in there. But usually we'll use this whole thing, and if it's really bad, then we'll start touching this. So we have the wood here, it's just have to finish getting it put away. So that's it for today, guys. I thank you for coming along and letting me share my heart and my journey a little bit with you. And thank you for watching. And I will see you guys hopefully soon. Bye.